What's up, Pup Nation? It's your boy John here. Today we are back with the Sunday Slate episode. A little bit of a different format this week. Sully and I have been very, very busy and huge week, but I know that people were wanting the picks. People are always asking, where are the picks? Need some picks to make, and I still wanted to bring them to you this week. So we're going to do that now, just in a really quick, short format. I'm just going to quick fire the picks that I've made for this Sunday Slate coming this week. See what you think of them. Give you a couple of thoughts and ideas for why I feel the way I do, so inclined about these picks. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe because that really helps us out as well. And we've got social channels and you can follow them. That'd be great. All right, so without further ado, like I mentioned, I've got 8 picks here. I'm going to run through them all really quickly, and then you can let me know what you think. Leave a comment as well when I get your thoughts, because some of these are a bit risky, but I'm into them. I'm still into them. First pick we're going to go with is CJ Stroud over 22.5 completions. So we've bet that up to 20. He's going to need 23 completions. He had 23 completions last week against Chicago in prime time, and the week before that he had 24 against Indy. They've been competitive games somewhat, and now they're on the road in Minnesota. And I actually think this is going to be a fairly competitive game. The reason I like this pick as well is because the Texans have been running a lot of plays. We know that week 1, Joe Mixon had, I think, 30 rush attempts. And CJ Stroud still had a fantastic game with 32 for 24, 24 of 32 attempts for 234 and 2 touchdowns. So 32 attempts, 30 rush attempts. I mean, it's all there to say the Texans do run a lot of plays, and without Joe Mixon this week, and they're relying on Cam Akers, I expect this to be a big CJ Stroud involved game. I wanted to bet some of the receivers. I wanted to bet Nico Collins, but he's up to 75.5 receiving yards. I thought it was a bit risky. Tank Dell, I actually like the under on Tank Dell. He's at 50.5 receiving yards, and his prop lines for receptions has gone down from 4.5 to 3.5. I didn't bet it in the end because I thought the Minnesota defense does give it up to receiver 2s, but is it going to be Stephon Diggs or is it going to be Tank Dell? I'm not sure. So I figured I'm going to split the difference. I'm going to stay on CJ Stroud with this one. He has a line of 260 passing yards as well. I can see him getting that as well, but I think it's the completions that are the way I'm going to play this one. All right, next pick I'm going to go with Lamar Jackson over 217.5 passing yards. And this one, similarly, they're going to Dallas. This is going to be a huge game in Dallas. Baltimore, they have to win this game. They're 0-2. A tough loss to Vegas last week at home. Tough matchup with week 1 with Kansas City. And I wouldn't be surprised if they win this game as well, outright. Week 1, Lamar had 41 pass attempts in Kansas City. Last week had 34 pass attempts against Vegas in that loss. I think that this is going to be similar. He's been running on the ground, 45 rushing yards last week, 122 in week 1. But there's no reason that he can't get the 217 passing yards that he needs. He had 247 last week. He had 273 week 1. The fact that this line is still sitting so low and it hasn't gone up that much is crazy. I know Dallas has got a really, really good defense, but Lamar is really, really good. 2-time MVP. I think this is a spot where he does get up. He had 21 completions last week, 26 in week 1 as well. So completion rate has been there. Yards have been there. This is nice and low. They have to win this game. So I'm into this pick. Third pick I'm going to go with Alvin Kamara over 107.5 scrimmage yards, all-purpose yards. This one is a little bit nuts. It's a little bit spicy, but I want to get in on the Saints action. They're going to be playing the Eagles, and there's a lot to like in this matchup. I think it's going to be a really competitive game. The Saints have been funneling, they've been high-powered, let's say that. Alvin Kamara's been playing absolutely amazing. Last week, 115 rushing yards, 65 receiving yards as well. Had an enormous game. Week 1, 83 rushing yards, 27 receiving yards as well. And I think that this is going to be a really, really competitive game. Saints have showed us that their formula for winning is by running it through Alvin Kamara. We've seen some deep bombs to Rashid Shaheed, which I think will be back. And I think this will also be a big Chris Olave game. But I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to attack these Eagles corners. This has been working. The formula has been working for us all season long. See it happening again. So I'm really into Alvin Kamara this week. If you want to just bet the rushing yards, you can. But he's so involved in the pass game as well that I like that there. He only had 2 receptions last week. Keep that in mind. We had 5 in week 1. Wouldn't be surprised if they go back to this one. New Orleans as well is 28th in neutral pass rate, which means that they're predominantly when the game is not getting out of hand, for what it's worth, they are still going through Alvin Kamara a lot. So really, really like this spot for him. But it is a big pick. I recognize that. Okay, next pick we're going to go with is Chris Godwin, over 65.5 receiving yards. And I think what people are starting to realize more and more now is that Chris Godwin, he is the receiver one on this team. I know there's a lot of talk of Mike Evans. I know we see clips of Baker and how much he loves Mike Evans, but the receiver one on this team is actually Chris Godwin. We've been riding this all week long. We had him in our first week one picks. We had him in our week 2 picks for Sunday Slate, and he absolutely delivered in both fronts. He had week 1 against Washington, 8 catches, 83 yards. Week 2 against Detroit, 7 catches, 117 yards. Those are 2 teams that you can throw on. It's going to be a tough matchup, but I believe in that Denver is coming to Tampa Bay, so I like the home game of that. I believe Patrick Surtain is going to be matched up on Mike Evans, and I think that leaves a lot of room for Chris Godwin to come in and get the 65.5 receiving yards that he needs in this one, and he's been very, very efficient, and I'm really into this matchup. Denver has not been good when defending receiver 2s. Denver as well has not always been great at defending the receiver 2s. We saw Tyler Lockett have a huge game against them in week 1. They did do okay against Pittsburgh last week, but that is Pittsburgh. They don't have much of a pass attack. So I think this is going to be one of the big tests for them. So we'll see how they go, but I'm really into 65.5 for Chris Godwin. He's been a stud. Next pick we're going to go with Juwan Jennings, 45.5 receiving yards. This one, so San Francisco are playing LA, and the Rams have injuries all over the shop. As to San Francisco, though, so no Deebo Samuel. I don't think we're going to see George Kittle as well, is what I hear. So this is basically going to go through Brandon Ayuk, no Christian McCaffrey either. Jordan Mason actually has a really high line of 95.5 rushing yards. Wouldn't touch that, even though the Rams are very bad at defending the run. But they're also bad at stopping the receiver 2 on teams as well. So we saw Jameson Williams week 1 have a huge game against them. Week 2, Michael Wilson actually did have a big game against them last week as well, finally. So I really like this spot for Juwan Jennings. He's actually a really, really talented player as well. He's very good route runner. He's very good hands as well. He's very good with the catch. Brock Purdy has been playing really well as well. He's been getting all of his passing metrics. He's gone over 230 each of the first 2 weeks and that was against New York, very good defense, and Minnesota, which from what we've seen so far, pretty good defense. So fully expect, I understand that this one's divisional. That kind of scares me off it a little bit, but for the most part, really into this pick, Juwan Jennings. It's just 45.5 receiving yards, and I believe he can get that. I mean, he can get that even when Deebo and Kittle are on the field. Okay, next one is going to be Brock Bowers, over 47.5 receiving yards. And yes, I am absolutely drinking the Kool-Aid here. I'm not sure what to make of this Carolina Panthers defense, but they're coming to Vegas, so they are +7 on the road, although I believe that's gone down to +5.5 now that Andy Dalton has been announced as a starter. But while we focus on Las Vegas, the Carolina Panthers have not been good defending the tight end. We saw Taysom Hill and Juwan Jennings in week 1 have a very good game against them. And then last week, Will Dissly actually had a really good game against them as well, getting his prop line. So now we've started to understand, and people have recognized that Brock Bowers is the second receiving option on this team. He has supplanted Jacoby Myers. So he used to have a line of 33.5 the first 2 weeks. It's gone up to 47.5. I think that the receptions are still there as well, but I think there's going to be a big Bowers game. I think that a lot of attention is going to be on Devontae Adams, and Brock Bowers should be able to run right through them. Las Vegas also, they're 3rd in the NFL in neutral pass rate to their receivers as well. So even when the game is level or they're behind, they are throwing the ball a ton. They're not really relying on the run game with Zamir White and Alexander Mattison very much. So let's go Brock Bowers in this spot. The 7th pick I've got here, it's Deshaun Watson, over 20.5 completions. This one I bet week 1, it hit. I bet it week 2, it hit. There's no reason. I don't know why they don't increase it. They're not doing it. They're playing the Giants. Cleveland are playing the Giants this week. This is a great spot for Cleveland. They have not been using the ground game very much at all. They've been relying on Jerome Ford, Deonta Foreman. Those guys have been relatively inefficient. I know that Jerome Ford did get his prop lines last week, most of them, but Deshaun Watson has been he's had a pass attempt line of 33.5 as well, and he's gone over that both weeks as well. Strangely, he's had a line of 220 passing yards, and he has not gone over those. So even though he's getting the completions, they seem to be for short gains. Browns are 2nd in neutral passer rate as well. So you can see that they don't really have much of a run game at the moment. They are actually throwing the ball a ton with Deshaun Watson, and he has been okay despite all the media pressure that he's been getting, particularly in that week 1 game against Dallas. But this is the Giants, man. The Giants absolutely suck. They couldn't even get over Washington, who must be one of the worst defenses in the league in a really, really long time as well. So Giants have been relatively effective against receivers and not so much against tight ends. They've been pretty bad against running backs as well, but I think this is a good spot for Deshaun Watson to continue getting that 20.5 that he needs. Even Jaden Daniels last week had more than 20.5 completions. I think Deshaun Watson should be fine with this. My 8th and final pick for the Sunday slate, it's in Detroit playing Arizona. Sorry, it's in Arizona, but Detroit are going to be there. It is Jameson Williams, over 50.5 receiving yards. Arizona's been pretty bad against receiver twos. They've allowed in their first couple of games, even though we did see not much progress with Buffalo, but we didn't really know who the receiver two was in Buffalo week 1. Last week against the Rams, they did give it up to the likes of Demarcus Robinson after Cooper Kupp got injured, and a couple of other guys. Tutu Atwell was having a good game as well. And I think this is a really good spot for Jameson Williams. We've really seen him come alive, particularly this year. They've finally started to utilize him as the receiver too. Amon-Ra is super boom and bust as well, whereas Jameson Williams has been very consistent. He's had lines of 38.5 and 3.5 receptions. And he's gone over both of those each week. He's had a longest reception as well of 19.5, and he's gone over those. Now he's up to 50.5. So they've caught on. It's still 3.5 receptions as well. But this has come, I think, at the cost of Sam Laporta, who's been less involved. His lines are going down now. Khalif Raymond has not been a factor. Jahmyr Gibbs has actually been really effective in the pass game as well. David Montgomery is not. So I expect this to be a lot of passing. I think Jared Goff has got a line of 260 passing yards as well. And I think there's going to be a ton of the ball going to Jameson Williams going his way. So should be a shootout. It's 51.5 over under. And I really like this spot for Detroit. Despite the two-headed monster they've got at running back, they're sitting around, I think it's like 11th or 12th in neutral pass rate as well. So really good spot for them as well. That they are passing the ball a ton. Jared Goff had a line of 268 last week and he went over that. Plenty of attempts to be had. I think this is going to be a great game. All right, that's going to do it for a condensed Sunday slate episode, week 3. I still want to bring you something, as I was saying. We'll be back with regular programming as well through the week, so watch out for that. We'll give you that hour-long episode that we usually do next week for week 4 Sunday slate. But until then, want to get something to you guys. If you're still watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Really helps us out. And follow our social accounts as well. Leave a comment. Follow us on Reddit as well. We've had a few people following us on Reddit, which has been really good to see as well. We'll be back next week. Enjoy the games. Until then, see you soon.
Don't let the game play you. Stay in control. Gamble responsibly. In Australia, phone 1-800-858-858 for free and confidential support. In Canada, learn about safer play at Know the Risks from the Responsible Gambling Council at knowtherisks.ca. In America, must be 21 or older and present in Arizona. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. Colorado, gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700. Connecticut, if you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat. In Illinois, Maryland, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and West Virginia, call 1-800-GAMBLER. In Indiana, gambling problem? Call 1-800-9-WITH-IT. Kansas, gambling problem? Getting help is your best bet. Call 1-800-522-4700 or visit ksgamblinghelp.com. Louisiana, if you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-877-770-STOP. In Massachusetts, call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support. Play it smart from the start or call 1-800-GAM-1234. In Michigan, gambling problem? Call 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help. In New York, for help with a gambling problem, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Tennessee gambling problem? Call Tennessee Redline 1-800-889-9789. Wyoming gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700. Prop Nation betting show is for entertainment purposes only and should in no way be considered financial advice.